It is fabulous news that we're unveiling here exclusively at this event. Tell us more, a new sponsorship deal.
Well, obviously, listen, darts is on fire. That's why we're here today. We all know what it's doing all over the world. 66,000 people can't be wrong, that's for sure. I'm wrong quite a lot of times, but it's all about relationships. You know, we've had a wonderful run-up relationship with Sky Sports since the beginning. They're getting their return in terms of record ratings, second only behind football now, Premiership football. We beat the League Cup final live, so the rest of it's easy. But you also need a helping hand in other areas, and we've developed a relationship with William Hill that I have to say has been one of the most pleasing relationships I've had, because we're on the same side. We love our darts, we love our arrows, we love the customers that play. And today we're absolutely delighted to announce that we've signed a new 5-year extension on our deal, which is going to see darts go to the next level. I think David and his team have done an excellent job with us. They've managed to find that extra few quid that Barry Hearn always likes in deals. But we do it on the basis that everyone gets value for money, whether you're a punter, a sponsor or a TV company. As long as you get value for money, it doesn't really matter what the money is. That's easy for me to say because it's not my money. But William Hill have come up to the plate, and that means that whilst the prize money this year is 1.5 million, with 300,000 going to the winner, under this new 5-year deal, the prize money will escalate to £2.2 million prize money with £500,000 to the winner. So those ideas of youngsters that thought darts was perhaps a misspent youth, think again, your bank manager loves you even more. And it's all about ability. What we've seen is this incredible surge in standard by full-time professional darts players like Gary Anderson, Phil Taylor, Michael Van Gerwen, where they've taken the game to another level. And that level is a level of supreme accuracy, total dedication and professionalism that's given us the type of games that gets us sitting on the edge of our seat while we're watching it on Sky. And of course for William Hill, the story is this is a sport we want to back in the long term. We think it has a future and it's good for our business. And everyone should be selfish about this. You know, it has to work for our sponsors, it has to work for our broadcasters, and it has to work for the most important ingredient of all with professional darts, which is the players themselves. We are changing lives of youngsters through the youth tour, the development tour. We're giving the top class professionals the opportunity to earn millions of pounds a year. Total prize money this year goes past £10 million. 10 years ago it was 500,000. Where will it be in the next 10 years? Well, with the right backing and the right people behind us, the organisation and the administration and the journalists and everyone that makes this sport so successful, there is no limit to where darts can go. So happy days, £500,000 coming up for the winner over the next few years, but 300,000 to start with. And I have never looked forward to a World Darts Championships more than this Thursday. The place is going to be rocking. Alexandra Palace is going to be mayhem. I'm not going in the fans' village because it's dangerous. Last time I went in, I think I got about 8 pints of lager over my head, which is a shame because I quite fancied drinking it at the time. This place is rocking. Everyone's going to be having the biggest party London's ever seen, coupled uniquely with world-class sports. So for William Hill, David and your team, thanks for your support. It's much appreciated and we won't forget you, mate. So I think we're going to have a very lively time.
Brilliant. Barry, thank you very much. David, thank you very much. A round of applause for William Hill and this great news. I'll just get out of the way if you want a quick picture of the two guys. And we will have a photograph opportunity after the Fans Forum with the Sid Waddell Trophy for the William Hill World Darts Championship as well. We'll do that straight after the forum. David, just a quick word from yourself. Obviously delighted to be involved and long-term now till 2020.
Absolutely, it gives us an opportunity to build with the PDC on what we did last year. We've got a long-term commitment now till 2020. You know, we just want to take it bigger and bigger. This is Christmas for William Hill, and that was reflected last year in turnover and coverage, and both from media perspective and PR perspective. You know, we're in it for the long haul.
Brilliant. Great to see you here today. Enjoy the Fans Forum. David from William Hill, congratulations on the new deal. Barry, if you can stay with us and join us here for the PDC Fans Forum. And we have some very special guests to introduce alongside Barry as well. So, without further ado, we'd like to thank you all for being here today at the Flight Club here in London. This is a great way to build up to the William Hill World Darts Championship in just over 48 hours' time, of course, at the Alexandra Palace. And on the back of the news of a brand new 5-year sponsorship deal for the World Championship with William Hill, we look forward to the next 45 minutes or so of enjoyable questions and answers. For those of you watching this on our YouTube channel, the PDC YouTube channel, you can fire questions via Twitter using the hashtag PDCFANSFORUM. That's hashtag PDCFANSFORUM to our guests, including Barry. Once again, a round of applause for Barry Hearn, ladies and gentlemen, who's with us for the next 45 minutes or so. And joining Barry here on the stage, would you please welcome former world number one, former world match play champion, and a colleague of mine on Sky Sports as well. Would you please welcome Mr. Rod Harrington? Good to see you, Rod. Thanks for joining us here at the Fight Club today. And also the reigning world champion. And I know you're going to make him very welcome. It'll be interesting to see what he's got to say in the build-up to the William Hill World Championship. It was the biggest moment in his darting career earlier this year when he lifted the world title and the Sid Waddell Trophy. Would you please welcome Gary Anderson?
Slow.
Good to see you, Gary. Second one we've done, Gary. We were Glasgow, weren't we, in March, where we did, was it Trader Joe's in Glasgow, where we did the first PDC Fans Forum?
Yeah, it was.
All good fun.
Night.
All good fun. It's been a mad year for you, I guess, Gary. Sum it up, how you feel about it over the last sort of 12 months now, going into the World Championship?
Last 12 months just disappeared. It's went past like that. You know, it's been absolutely fantastic. You know, Dubai, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. Great. It's been great.
And a reminder, you can fire questions to our panel via Twitter. We've got one for Rod Harrington straight away. Who could be a first-time world champion this year, Rod? And that is from Henry Deacon. Is there anybody you fancy that could win the world title for the first time?
Well, I think my outside tip, it's got to be Peter Wright. I mean, when you look at the form of him the last year, he's come so close so many times. He's got plenty of bottle. That's what I like about him. He's got good scoring power, you know, along with the big boys. And I think he's due a win, and I think it's going to come very closely. Perhaps this World Championship may be won a little bit too early, but he will win a major. He's got the game, but that would be the one tip. I mean, people like Michael Smith, I think 2 or 3 years down the road, then he may have the game to win the World Championship, but certainly Peter Wright.
Looking forward to it. Stupid question, really, isn't it?
Oh, it's a stupid question. I love it, Nigel. It's such a... Well, it's a massive Christmas party with a great dart match going on. I mean, when you watch the fans come in, when we're sitting in the studio and they're dressed up as the Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever, I always said to Eric Bristow, do you know what, why don't we just dress up, go in there and get drunk with them? What a time we'll have, but we never do that.
We got work to do, Rod.
Yeah, we got work to do.
Well, it's not proper work, is it? But anyway.
Certainly not work.
By the way, as well, for those of you here in the club today, we have Oliver just below us, who's got a radio mic, who's quite happy to take any of your questions. If you've got questions from the floor, then please feel free to show your hand, and we will fire questions at our panel. Barry, I've got to ask you, I was privileged enough to work on the last World Championship at the Circus Tavern. That was my first year on Sky Sports. And then, of course, it was the move to the Alexandra Palace, which had staged top-level darts before. It's amazing, really, how it's progressed and just got bigger and bigger since the return of the World Championship. Alexandra Palace in 2007.
It's a fascinating question that a lot of people ask, and you know, how did this all happen? Why did it happen? You know, and I don't think anyone knows the real reason other than we're in the right place and the right time. I think there's a demand these days for predominantly younger sports fans to be entertained and get value for money in their ticket price and give them something unique that they can perhaps go to work the next day and talk about. You know, you won't believe what happened last night. Well, that's a line that happens at every session of every world. Someone will say, you won't believe what happened last night. You won't believe what I saw. You won't believe the standard of the game. You won't believe how many pints I drank. You know, I mean, there's a whole, you know, and it just suits today's audience. I mean, younger people like fast action sport. You know, you've seen it with 2020 cricket, things like that. And darts, you haven't got time to blink sometimes. If you've got Michael van Gerwen on the hockey, 11 minutes sometimes, 9 minutes, the game's over. You know, I mean, Gary's not slow. And I think that sort of speed encourages you to have a bet. have a little in play, you know, and who's going to have the most 180s, who's going to have the highest checkout, and the bookmakers have risen to that, and that makes the game more exciting for people because it is more fun when you've got a little bet on it. Also, you don't watch the darts all the time, you know, you're chatting to your mates, you're having a conversation, suddenly there's a 9-darter on the place, you can hear a pin drop. Other times, you know, I don't know, Phil Taylor's playing someone and they're booing the other player, you know, and these players have got used to that because they're entertainment on legs. And I think this is the reason why the real growth is we've found a unique sport that can be not only exciting in a sporting sense, but also part of a thoroughly enjoyable and entertaining evening. I don't know another sport out there that is not visible to the naked eye and yet attracts such a high level of interest. It's quite unique, and for that reason, we're finding that we're getting new fans all the time. You know, my wife always said, darts, I'm not going to darts. None of my friends like darts. My wife's a bit posh. You know, none of my friends like darts. So I went to her tennis club last year, all very posh people that don't like darts. As I walked in, I got mobbed. Any chance of getting us tickets for darts? And my wife reluctantly had to come, and she hates to admit it, but she had a blinding time. So I think we're classless. You know, you can see Prince Harry sitting there, and the geezer sitting next to him is a scaffolder. You know?
We have a question from the floor. Good afternoon, sir.
I have a question for both Rod and Gary. What advice would you give to amateur young dart players to make the transition from an amateur darts pub player, for example, to be competitive in such a competitive era, emphasised by Barry at the start?
Can I just ask the question again, because the microphone wasn't working at first there, for the benefit of our viewers. Gary, what advice would you give to amateur dart players now to try and make the breakthrough in the professional game?
We can't really give you advice, you know, it's, you know, your own standards. I mean, the standards are getting great, and all you can put it down to, put the time in, get on the practice board, but I think the biggest thing is enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it and you're treating it like a job, you know, that's when it's going to give you a bit of hassle in that. But plenty of hours on the practice board, get down to the pub with your mates and that, the more hours that you put in, and enjoy it.
Rod, you've been heavily involved with the youth scene as well, of course, so you're working with new players all the time.
I am, yes, and it's great to see the standard of them as well. But also, Gary said you've got to put the hard work in, but also you've got to find the right dart that suits your grip and your action. Because there's a lot of people you watch playing darts, you can see straight away they're not standing right. Certainly the darts are not right for their action, the way they go in. They've got to go in the board where your eye tells your brain that that's good. So sometimes it will take you 5, 6, even 10 sets of darts to find that set of darts that makes you a couple of % better. And then don't set goals from here, where you are now, to here. You don't set a goal from, say, your standard to Gary Anderson's standard. You set a goal of, like, I'm going to improve 3, 4, 5% this year on everything I do. And then the following year you do that. And then it's a progression. That's why we've got the Youth, the Challenge, because now, like in golf, you've got the stepping stone to get to the professional. Then it's down to hard work, dedication.
Thanks for the answers, fellas. Gary, we said we'd cover this subject very briefly, but of course, media coverage now. We welcome members of the media here today to this event as well. I know Dave Allen does a fantastic job as the PDC media man. Headlines that appeared last week, Gary, of course, as world champion, you are the centre of attention. And there were 1 or 2 headlines last week, which I think you can cover off pretty quickly and just clarify.
Yeah, it's getting picked on again, but down to my own fault, you know. Listen, I'm a dart player. I throw darts. I don't think what I'm going to say or do thing. I did say the wrong thing, but on my own defence, it wasn't meant the way it sounded. I play darts, right? I got on that stage in Glasgow wanting to destroy Eddie Lewis in front of my home people, you know. But once the carry-on started, to be honest, I wanted off that stage. You know, it was terrible. Put me off my game. Didn't want to be there. Felt scared. What do? You know, so thanks to that, what they called? BBC? Is it BBC? You know, I actually thought they were gone now. I didn't actually realise they still had TV channels and that, but to be honest, anyway. But
you told me you just got a standard answer for this and you're rambling on now.
I'm gone, aye, but like I say, I've answered it wrong. I've said the wrong thing. People's jumped on me. Sorry for that, but not in that intention. Like I say, you got up there to win games. I did. Once a few coins and a clip of lighter came flying across, I wanted to be off of there. You know, and agents should never have had to go through that as well. So.
Can we just say, I mean, obviously, the sport's big, and when a world champion says something, people listen, you know, and we've discussed this, and Gary knows that the DRA will have a look at it, because that's what they're there for. There's an integrity unit in place. I'm sorry to say that. And if they feel he did anything wrong, trust me, they'll deal with him. But we all know, everyone in darts knows Gary Anderson. Gary Anderson's one of the straightest upfront players you'll ever find. But he's also a little bit too nice, and I think on that particular nice, he felt sorry for his opponent, and it's difficult to motivate someone like Gary. He can also be, by the way, the stroppiest bugger out there. Oh, yeah. You know, if he wants to win, he's very difficult to get away. You know, he wants to win every single leg of every single match. That not change. But there are circumstances sometimes which are difficult for the players to deal with. Some of the crowds occasionally need correcting, and I think the Glasgow crowd since that night have been 100% better. Yeah. They've learned from it, but it was an experience that we don't want to go through again, and I think the danger is making it too much of a blowing up out of proportion. Certainly not the case as far as the PDC are concerned.
So you are welcome to fire questions, but don't ask anyone about the newspaper headlines of last week. We've covered that now. Hashtag PDCFANSFORUM. Thanks for that, Gary, and Barry as well. Great stuff. More questions that have come through on social media. This one is from Twitter. Gary, if you were to win the World Championship again this year, would it be, do you think, more special than the first time?
Oh, it'd be nice, definitely, you know, but no, I think my first one, playing in my eyes, the greatest dart player in the world, Phil Taylor. You know, there's not a lot of people say that have bet Phil in a final, even a major or the Worlds, but I've done it twice now, you know, back many years ago, and then last year, so it would definitely be up there, but not as good as the first one.
You've got to face a qualifier from the preliminary round on Thursday night, of course, the world champion first up. First night of the tournament, Thursday night at Alexandra Palace. It's going to be Bolton or Larson who are playing the prelim round, and then you face them, which is the final game of Thursday night. What are your thoughts on that?
Don't know. You know, the more I'm thinking about it, the more nervous I'm getting. But first rounds are going to be the hardest, no matter what tournament it is. You know, and Andy Bolton's a cracking player, and so's Per. So whoever wins against him, I'm going to have a tough anyway. But like I say, you just got to get your head down, get on that board, and do what you can do.
So that's on Thursday night, the opening night of the World Championship. We have a question from the floor over here. Yes, sir, good afternoon.
To Barry, how long do you think darts can keep on increasing in popularity?
It's a good question, and we've already gone to a level I never anticipated it would go to, quite frankly. When we first got involved 12, 13 years ago, and I go back to Rod's early days, the World Championships. I remember the first year, looking at the figures, we took £45,000 in total ticket money, first year of the World Championships. This year will be up around 3 million. So it's changed a lot. But the thing is, you're only limited by your own imagination, aren't you? So if we get complacent and say, okay, we've gone as far as we can go, the only way is back. But looking at the global scene, which excites me even more, I mean, we've reached a stage of, I think, capacity in the UK as far as television events are concerned. If we do any more, we risk overkill. So now's the time to actually grow the international side more than even the domestic side. Domestic side's looking after itself, and if we keep giving them great games, keep our ticket prices affordable, I think we've got a secure future. Our television ratings are, you wouldn't want to be Sky when you sit down with me in the next 6 months, put it that way. Talk about the new deal, it's going to be brutal. And I'm looking forward to that enormously. But when we look at what we've done outside the UK, where we started off with the World Series, a little try in Dubai, all of a sudden it's Perth, Sydney, Auckland, 16,000 tickets in Auckland sold first year. Where does that come from? It comes from TV exposure, and our TV platform now, going to nearly 100 countries around the world, people are watching it that don't even play darts and say, wow, this looks like fun. So where I see it going, I see it getting bigger and bigger internationally, particularly in China and the Far East. I think we'll be back in Vegas in 2017, but it's all part of a major master plan that was built up over years of just loving the sport and saying, what can we do to make it more attractive, change the perception. Darts players are no longer looked at as fat blokes from the pub. You know, they are not necessarily skinny blokes by the way, but it's now become the perception of a proper sport, proper sportsman, well-paid sportsman, and it sits higher in their recognition.
Question on the floor over here. Yes, sir, good afternoon.
Oh, hi there. Talking about the Grand Slam of darts this year and the success of, I'd say, Martin Adams and the way he won over the crowd and accepted by the PDC audience, could we see a wildcard entry for him in the Premier League?
Absolutely no chance whatsoever.
Right.
Next question. Listen.
That question's for you then, Barry.
No. No, let me just do this one, then I'll stop talking. But Martin Adams is a great darts player, no question. It's a shame he hasn't participated over the past few years, but we really welcomed him to it, and I thought he added a lot to the tournament. But you have to keep everything in perspective. You know, he made the top 16. And that's a good achievement. I mean, again, the sport's moved on from the amateur professional days. There's only one professional body. I'm not being biased, but the averages say it all. I think Martin Adams is probably the best or one of the top 3 players on the BDO. And if he ever wanted to try his luck, he would be welcome with open arms. But there's no fast track these days. Everyone has to earn their corn, whether it's Gary Anderson, Martin Adams, or some kid who's just gone to Q school. And I think that's the fair way that sport should be played on.
Yeah, interesting. And I think certainly BDO players like Glenn Durant and Scott Mitchell, we have to ask the question of those as well. There's some fine players that, who knows, could be on borderline. We'll wait and see in the new year, of course. Rod Harrington, a question for you on Twitter from Ali Hudson. What are the chances of someone winning the World Championship from outside of the top 8 right now?
Yeah, quite a good chance. I mean, when you look at the depth of ability that we've got in the PDC ranks now, then that could happen. I mean, the first year at Ali Pally, when John Part won it, no, not taking anything away from John Part, but they had a few top seeds fall in the early rounds, which can happen over that short distance, as Gazza will tell you. If that happens, and then there'll be someone sitting there thinking, you know, I'll make hay while the sun shines. So, yes, there is. I mean, there's some great players out there with plenty of experience. You know, you've got your Terry Jenkinses. You know, people say he's over the hill. You still watch him play darts. He certainly isn't over the hill. You know, Barney's out of that top 8. You know, we all know what Barney can do on his day. The only one who doesn't believe he's a great player is actually Barney. I mean, he is a nightmare to deal with, and every one of our staff will tell you. We're telling him how great he is, and he go up there for 110 average and then complain about a double he missed in the first leg. I mean, he puts himself down, but certainly there is quite a few players outside that top 8 that can do it.
And Gary, a question for you. How has life changed for you since winning the World Championship? From David H on Instagram. How has life changed since winning the World Championship, Gary?
It's not changed one bit. You know, just spend more time on the road, but I'm still your same old Gary. You know, I still like to get home, get my feet up, a couple of coffees, you know, but lots of
you
coffee.
And your coffee, eh?
Oh, I love my coffee. Yeah, but no, it's been great, you know. I mean, it's great walking down the streets and you get your old granny stopping you for an autograph and a photo, which it's fantastic. But like I say, it's been really busy, enjoyed every minute, and I hope we can do it again this year and carry on. Yeah,
it seems as though you've got your feet very much on the ground, despite, you know, the increased attention and the... Is it pressure being a world champion, do you think?
I'm not even going to think about it. You know, I mean, the worst I ever felt was Premier League Glasgow there. I was coming on to world champion. I didn't even want to go on stage. I was being sick outside at the back of the curtains, you know. That was pressure, but like I say, it's one of these things. I'm just going to get up and have to prove myself this year again, so looking forward to it.
Yep, looking forward to it indeed. We're here in London today for the PDC Fans Forum ahead of the William Hill World Darts Championship, and who have just joined us, by the way, a new 5-year deal has been announced on this stage for William Hill to continue as sponsors of the World Darts Championship through to 2020. That's the headline news from today, including prize money going up and £500,000 for the winner in 2020. So it's good news day here in London today and live on the PDC YouTube channel. Let's check some more questions that have come through on the social media. I like this one. Barry, is there any chance, you've been asked this many times, I know, is there any chance that one day the PDC and the BDO will unite? And that's from Nick Johnson on email.
Well, a few years ago we tried, as you know. I offered them a couple of million quid, and I don't know what I was doing. What on earth I was wasting £2 million for.
We nearly sacked you then.
I know, I had a bad hair day. But they turned me down, which was a real favour, and I'm really grateful for that. I think what we need to do is actually live in the common sense world where we work together in harmony. And I am feeling there is a bit more harmonious relationships. You know, on the Grand Slam this year, we gave them more spots in the Grand Slam, whereas a lot of people were thinking we wouldn't give them any. And we gave them the opportunity to stage their own qualifier, so they had their own handwriting on it. And I think if we just, providing you know who you are in life and you play it dead straight, then there's no conflict. The idea of the BDO event at Lakeside being called the World Professional Championships deeply upsets me because it confuses the market, and quite frankly, theirs isn't a World Professional Darts Championships. It's a lakeside and it's a very, very good event. I watch it, I enjoy it. It's darts. But I think they've got to understand the roles. The roles of the BDO is predominantly grassroots, bringing kids on, and that actually works in our favour as well. So we would like to encourage them, to help them to continue with that, but they really mustn't confuse the market by saying that they are an alternative professional body, because their prize money effectively hasn't changed. It's £400,000 or £500,000, hasn't changed for 10 years, and ours has, and I think we've shown that this is the end result. And in golf it works. There's an excellent amateur golf circuit, and once they get good enough they go to the professional circuit. I used to be chairman of a League One football club, or now a League Two football club, and we used to dream of one day becoming a Premiership club, and that's good in sport. And I think the role of the BDO is to look after what they're good at doing and then work in harmony with us to give players the opportunity and the platform to go to the next level when their ability says they have a right to try. We are not going to go into the amateur game. We would never take over the BDO anymore, because we have our focus on building the professional game globally to a level that people thought would be impossible. We're good at that. We're not good at grassroots Super League evenings. It's not what we do. That's what they do. And I hope in time, I think there is a bit more common sense coming through, that we can have a closer relationship where perhaps we could be of help to the amateur game. But at the same time, there's got to be rules, and the differentiation between amateur and professional is getting more and more relevant. You know, we did mention, there's a couple of names you said there, you know, Glenn Durant, Scotty Mitchell, Martin Adams. There are some players out there playing the BDO circuit that could hold their own at some level within the PDC circuit, and we're there for them if they want to be there. But we have to say that with the youth tour that Rod brought in a few years ago, pretty well all the cream of the creme de la creme of youth players, which is the future of the game, are coming through our youth system. So the BDO are going to be faced with, you know, if a kid's got a choice of playing Premiership football or conference football, what does he go for? Well, his whole dream, the whole of essence of sport, is trying to be the best you can. So you want to play at the top level. So therefore, it's important to have a clear structure of darts so that the transgression between amateur and professional is clearly defined. And once we all swallow that pill to say this is what we're good at and this is what you're good at, then we can have a relationship where we can really help to build the grassroots, because it's in our interest to have a strong grassroots anyway.
Thanks, Barry. A question for Gary here. What is your practice routine like ahead of the World Championships? Is it any different? What are your thoughts on that?
A cup of coffee and, you know.
Yeah, and another cup of coffee.
Well, it would be good, but I'm sitting here, so I can't be in the practice.
Sorry about that, Gary.
That's not my fault.
Sorry to interrupt you.
It's been on the road, you know, practice what I was doing last year, completely different for what has been this year, you know, so I'm just trying to get in what I can. You know, I've got 2 days left now, so I'm going to be doing at least 8 hours after this today and try doing the same tomorrow and just pound that board. And that's all I can do.
Can I just come in there, Nigel? I mean, with the people who are watching who are keen dart players, just because you hear one player go, I'm on the board for 8 hours, it doesn't mean it's right for everybody. Certain players, like Gary, would rather leave the dartboard alone at certain times to keep enthusiasm for the game. And you've got to enjoy practice. And you know, we hear it, Phil Taylor practicing 6-8 hours a day. Absolute load of rubbish. He only said that so other people went on the board and got a little bit lethargic over it, and I can assure you of that. So it's what suits certain people. Some people love to practice hard, some people don't, but it certainly works for them on the dartboard.
Thanks, Rod. Barry, another question for you. Would you ever move the World Championship from the Alexandra Palace? This is Mark Patterson, who's sent that on Periscope.
Well, you can never say never in life, can you? I mean, people say about the World Snooker Championships, can you transfer it to China? You know, and I always say no. And my son said at the last meeting, unless the money's right. You know, he obviously knows me better than I know myself. I think Alexandra Palace is an iconic venue for us, and I think we've got the capacity, if we felt necessary, to increase the capacity by moving into the main hall. The doubt in my mind is, although I'm sure we could sell the tickets, is do we lose that special atmosphere where we create memorable moments for our television audience as well, or do we just increase the capacity and take more money? We don't necessarily have to just think about money all the time. We have to think about the brand we're producing, the quality of the event, the atmosphere that is transferred via television to places in the world that don't play darts, that watch it open mouthed because they can't quite believe it. I was with ESPN a couple of weeks ago in New York, and they had a little tape there of Premier League darts at Leeds. The first night, I think it was last year, there was 11,000 people in there. Now, to an American, that was like showing it to a Martian. You know, like, I don't believe it. How did you get these people in? Well, they came. You remember that Kevin Costner movie, if you tell them, they will come. And that's the principle of how we're working. So at this moment in time, Alexandra Palace, I love the venue. We have the capacity to get bigger there if we want, or we can stay where we are. But I think it's going to be sitting at Alexandra Palace at least for the next 4 or 5 years before we'd even consider. And I don't know where we'd take it, where we can duplicate all the advantages we've got. Alexandra Palace, to me, ticks all the boxes.
Thanks, Barry. Question from the floor. Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, hi. It's a question for Rod, actually. I'm a big fan of the commentary, and now Sid's not with us. Obviously, you know, we've lost something there. I'm sure we'll all agree. But I'd like to know from you, Rod, who do you enjoy most commentating with? Because some of the people, I mean, I enjoy Stephen Fry, etc. But, you know, what's your take on that?
Nigel Pearson.
I was going to say Nigel, honestly. It's when I'm working for Sky, I kind of class myself as the pundit. So working with Nigel or Stuart Pike, it's better for me to work with them than it would be, say, to work with Wayne Mardle or John Park, because you've got two pundits that personally I don't think it actually works. You need a journeyman and a pundit. That's the way I look at it. So certainly, and I'm a lazy git, so...
He's made the elevated ranks of journeyman. Well done, excellent.
Feel old now, Rod.
A journeyman journalist. So certainly working with Nigel and Stuart Pike. I've worked with Stuart a lot on the World Series and what have you. And they do all the donkey work, so I just sit there and talk a load of... Do you know what? When I was playing, I talked some sense. I really did. No one listened. Now I talk crap, everybody listens. It's amazing. Amazing.
Brilliant, brilliant. Good question. Thanks very much for that. Any more questions from the floor, by the way? We've got plenty on social media. Gary, do you approach playing the best of sets rather than the leg format? Do you approach it any different? That's from Ollie Lynch on Twitter.
Set-wise, I think it's a bit harder. You know, you've got to get in there and win the 3 legs. You know, that's your set over with, and it's hard. I mean, match play, you can find yourself 5 legs down, and you can come back. You know, but if you're set play 5 legs down, you're a set down and 2-0 down. So you're going to be in the boat. You know, so set play I think is a bit harder. Match play kind of takes the pressure off of you. Just go leg by leg. But I think set play is a bit harder. You know, so the head is win the 3 legs. That's you got your set up.
We've got set format now for the preliminary round, Rod, as well. Best of 3 for the prelim games this year, rather than the very short leg format. A fair reflection of the way the PDC regard the standard of the preliminary round players these days.
Well, certainly. I mean, we've got qualifiers coming in from all over the world, and as Barry said, you know, they're watching it on TV, they're seeing how much money's at stake, so their standard is going up and up. And obviously, you know, when it was the best of 7 legs, I mean, literally anybody could win that. That is that cutthroat. But the set format, you know, is completely different. I actually disagree with Gary. I think the set format is a game where someone who's behind can then get back a lot better. If you'll go 5-0 down to Gary Anderson, you know, you pack your bags, you might as well walk off stage. But if you're only 1 set down and 2 legs down, you're still only 1 set down. So in your mindset, you can still get back. So that's what I believe, that, you know, there's some players in this World Championship, Dave Chisnell for one, you know, he goes off the ball, has got this snatch, but over the set format, I think it plays more into his hands than the straight match play.
Can we also say that when you're bringing all these people out from all over the world, it's a tough ask to inspire people to take up the sport of darts and to, you know, look at it as a career rather than just a pastime. If you're bringing them from the other side of the world for the best of 7 legs,
7 legs, yeah.
You know, it can be over in 5 or 6 minutes. You can be beat 4-0, and what have you actually achieved when they go home? They go home, they get off the plane, they say, I got my bum smacked, came home. I nicked a few quid. When you give them some set play, they feel like they're really part of the event, and that hopefully will go back and inspire other people to see that, you know, you get at least a decent chance. And, you know, these preliminary round losers are on £4,500 for turning up. And in some of the countries they come from, you know, you could buy a small town for some of that money, you know. So we've got to treat them with respect. At the same time, they're dart players that will bring with them, some of those qualifiers, preliminary players, will bring with them a 90 to 100 average. They're not mugs anymore, you know. So if you take your foot off the pedal and think, oh, I've got an easy one, you're in for a really big shock. And best of 3 sets, I think, gives them the respect to treat them like a proper professional as well.
Rod, who has potentially the toughest run to the final? MVG, of course, could meet Barney.
Yes, he could do. I think what you've got to look at is the first rounds. I mean, I think Dave Allen will put right. Peter Wright got Keegan Brown, which, you know, you've got to look at the first rounds because they're where the upsets are. As Gary said, you know, they're very nervous going into the big tournament, especially this one, because every pound that you win goes on your ranking. So doing this early on in the season is great for the new year. So Peter Wright for me has got the hardest. I know I tipped him as one of the outsiders. If he gets over Keegan Brown, who's a very, very good player, then he's going to be on the run. But that, you've got to look at them first round to see who's got the hardest run, because the first round is all about your run. If you go out, then you say goodbye and you have the worst Christmas of your life. I've been there. And it, Gaz, if you lose before Christmas, my God, Father Christmas.
That's more pressure now. See, thank you.
Gary's getting
Not
nervous
planning
enough, can't we got a question from the floor over here. Yes, sir.
Question for Barry. How much are you looking forward to Premier League darts venturing out into Holland for the first time in 2016?
Well, yeah, it's another good question, mate. You know, you can come again. When we said about looking at, we say that lovely phrase about you're only limited by your own imagination. You know, you build a brand like Premier League darts, which is 100,000 plus tickets sold every year, can't get in, etc. You know, so it's a big tick in the box. Great TV ratings. Do you just say, well, that's it? You know, we've done it, we cracked it, and stick the prices up a bit? Or do you say, well, actually, let's look at it at the beginning, not at the end? And the beginning is the way I look at it. So we looked at Holland, which we know has got a big infrastructure of darts, great, you know, obviously some fabulous players. And we tacked the border and say, well, are we ready to have a little punt? And we actually thought it was a little punt. And then we said, well, let's go to the Ahoy Stadium in Rotterdam, which is a massive stadium, 9,586 tickets, approximately, right? And everyone went, Jesus, you know, why don't we go somewhere smaller? We said, well, look, we're going to have a punt. If we believe in ourselves, which we do, then let's have a proper punt. And we sold 9,586 tickets in just under 1 hour. So
is that a precise number? Are you sure of that?
That's exactly. I'm never wrong with numbers.
Everyone accounted for.
It relates to a lot of money, but more importantly, you can buy tickets for that on eBay, and instead of being 35 euros, they're 240 euros. So that encourages you to think, right, okay, is it Berlin next or Dusseldorf? And you get a brand in the same way that Premier League football. We're experimenting with the idea of taking one Premier League fixture somewhere outside of the UK, where NFL decide, let's go and have a couple of NFL girls in London. We're in the same conversation. And now we're getting people saying, we'd like to bid for an event. You know, we'd like an event that we would want to, you know, and this, we've just done a major deal with one of the biggest companies in the world in China to start the China Darts Masters next year. Now, where could that go if it suddenly became a recognised sport in a country with billions of people, with huge sports halls which you can stick hundreds of dartboards up and say to them, all you've got to do is just keep peppering that treble 20 and hit the odd double, you know? That's the type of future for us. It's at another level to anything that we've ever conceived. And the first stage of that was the Ahoy Stadium in Rotterdam.
And a question from the floor here. Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Hi there. You mentioned, I guess this is a question for the group, but it goes back to grassroots development. In this country, it seems like pubs are closing right and left. You know, they're closing, I don't know what the figures are, but pubs are closing every week. It's difficult to find a venue to play darts. I mean, this place is fantastic, but where I live, there isn't a single pub that exists anymore with a dartboard in it. I don't know what equipment to choose. So, you know, grassroots development, I guess what can be done to kind of get to that stage so that, you know, you can grow it broadly as you're speaking of?
Well, literally just about a month ago, we put a franchise out to an ex-professional, Steve Brown, although he still is trying to make it. He started up some youth academies, and now he's got, I don't know, 20 or 30 throughout the country. We've actually got them into colleges now, and it's on the curriculum at these colleges. But you're right, it is still not flushing through to the pubs. I think what is happening is the kids now are on their computers, don't want to go down the pub with their fathers at the age of 16, 17, 18 years old. But what is happening, we're seeing a good standard coming straight in at our youth tours. And I believe that what that is happening is a father's going, you know what, son, you might be able to play darts and earn millions of pounds like Gary Anderson. There's a dartboard in your bedroom on the back of the door, and that's where a lot of it's starting now. I mean, years ago it used to be golf. Everybody wanted their son to be a golfer or a footballer because the money was there. Now it's in darts. But you're right, the dartboards are not still coming into the pubs. The league where I come from in Chelmsford, they had 900 teams in the summer league. Now they've got 90. So it is diminishing. But at the professional level and what we're doing, we're seeing a real increase in players, but the players that are coming in at our standard are already at a very high standard of darts.
You're also seeing a change in the whole British perception. You know, pubs when I was young are not the same pubs today. No. You know, in the north of England it was all Skittles and Dominoes and, you know, whatever, you know. The culture of the pub economy has changed dramatically, a move away from just beer into food, so therefore more space required. Bouncing darts is not a good way to eat your Chateaubriand, you know. So what you're seeing is actually, and I think this, where we are today at a flight club, which is a place that's impressed me so much, this is the new age of darts, if you like, to get people encouraged into the game. We've seen it outside of the UK, particularly in America, with soft tip darts. And, you know, I encourage that as well. You know, it's an easy to monetize. You buy a machine, you pay to play. Japan is massive in soft tip darts, big tournaments. But they all dream of being a steel tip player because that's the credibility that goes at the top end of the sport. But anything like, is it pool or snooker, anything that gets you holding a cue is good for cue sports. Anything that gets you holding a dart is good for dart sports. As you say, the beauty of darts is that you can go, you know, I guess you're American, but you can go into your basement or your garage and put a dartboard up. And it's probably the only sport in the world where you can literally take your playing equipment with you in your luggage. You know, just got to measure out the hockey wherever you are, hotels or wherever. Players do it all the time. Stick a dartboard up and throw. What we're seeing is through the education of television is youngsters, perhaps not in the volume of grassroots players that there used to be in the pubs. They're now at a different level, almost academy standard of saying, I have a natural ability for this and I'm going to enhance it. But it may not be something that's going to... I don't think you're ever going to see pubs start putting dartballs in. What you will see is a lot more places like the Flight Club, which is a social, music venue, food and drink venue with darts as part of the selling point. And I think this place is like the future of darts in terms of wholesale.
I was amazed when we walked in here. I think this is fabulous to see a place like this.
I was here last night and it was our Christmas party. It was absolutely mobbed. This place has taken it's got 16,000 bookings for the month of December. I mean, and that's people talking to you with their wallet, isn't it? It's a conversation you can't ignore. This is working, and I think these guys will take this concept and expand it. And will it change darts? No. Is darts more of a spectator sport than an active sport? That may be the case. People will enjoy going to watch. We try and analyse our audience all the time because it's the only way to really understand the target we're trying to hit. So 10 years ago, for example, it was roughly speaking 95 to 5% male spectator. Today, it's more like 75-25. 10 years ago, the average age profile was 45 to 55. Today, it's 18 to 28. These are quantum changes in demographics that you've got to take on board. We live in a changing world with new media being to the forefront, and darts is part of that changing world, and we have to adjust to that.
Gary, a quick question for you. And by the way, Gary will be signing some autographs afterwards, just away to our left here. Did you not know that?
I've just been on.
Well, you're signing autographs afterwards, so feel free to get an autograph with Gary. A question for you there, Gary. Do you think form or bottle on the night is the bigger factor in winning a game, particularly at the World Championship, I guess? That's on Twitter.
I like the ones that use bottle. You know, it's usually for people that are sitting on their backsides watching it. You know, when you're up there in front of 14,000 people throwing for a double, you know, and they say you have no bottle, come and try it yourself. It's nerve-wracking, you know. But no, form. Like I say, Michael Van Gerwen's been absolutely phenomenal this year, you know, especially the last 7 months. But he's got to carry on now for the next 2-3 weeks. You know, one mistake and you're out. You know, that's how hard the game's getting. So, I don't know. It does help to have a bit of bottle. But I think form plays the most part in it.
Good answer. Rod, just another one from Twitter here. How does anyone go about beating Michael Van Gerwen at the moment? That's from Andy B on Twitter.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, because although Gary's sitting beside me, you know, Michael has been cleaning up just lately. But if you analyse every game he plays, like we have to because we're there for all of them, he is making mistakes, but no one is punishing him for those mistakes. And at the moment, and Gary will tell you, he's had it as well, he's got this air of invincibility that when he walks on the stage, he just feels he can't be beaten. And that gives him this extra confidence. So if someone, misses one dart at 32, he can walk up and take, like a 129 he took out against Peter Wright. I mean, he does that so often now, but that's down to the confidence. But in certain crucial times in a game, if his opponent takes out a double and puts him under pressure, then that's a completely different game, and that's when he gets beaten. But at the moment, he's running his luck. He's a highly skillful young man and a very, very confident young man. I mean, Gary won the Tour Players Championships at Minehead before the World Championships last year. And for me, when he beat Phil Taylor in the semi-finals, it didn't prove to us how good Gary Anderson was, because we all knew that. It proved to him how good he could be, and that's why he went on and won the World Championships. So against Michael van Gerwen, when you play him, you take your chances, because if you're good enough and got the scoring power, you're going to give yourself chances. But down the bottle, perhaps, as we mentioned, you've got to have the bottle to take it out and punish him.
Thanks, Rod. We've also got a very special gift here. Unicorn Darts, limited commemorative edition. Gary Anderson, World Champion 2015, signed by Gary as well. And we did say that we'd give this away to the question of the day. Gary, if you could just hold these for us. And we'd like to ask this gentleman with a cap on, would you like to come and accept these darts on our behalf for asking a couple of great questions there. Congratulations. Thanks to Unicorn. Thanks to Gary for bringing those along. Top stuff. Gary will sign a few autographs. We do have photographers here as well. We've got the World Championship trophy, so members of the media, feel free to approach the guests and grab photographs with the Sid Waddell trophy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure having these three guys with us here today ahead of the William Hill World Championship in 2 days' time. Thursday night it all gets underway. If you're going along, have a fantastic time at the Alexandra Palace. If you're not, don't forget you can watch it all live on Sky Sports. My thanks here at the Flight Club today to our very special panel. Ladies and gentlemen, Rod Harrington, Gary Anderson and Barry Hearn.